Carnival! And welcome to another episode of Tales from the Parade Route. Tonight we have the very special honor of celebrating mere days before their annual march. Ladies and gentlemen, the Krewe of Joan of Arc. How y'all doing?
Doing good.
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
So for starters, tell us a little bit about the origins of the parade. How did it come to be?
Well, I was reading a book about Joan of Arc, as I tend to do, and I found out that her birthday was on January 6th. I had known a lot about her, I thought, but I didn't know her birthday was January 6th. And once I realized her birthday was also 12th night, I started to think of a way to maybe make a parade in her honor. So put some ads out. Those were the days you might remember of the Mardi Gras forums on NOLA.com, and there wasn't, if there was Facebook, I wasn't active on it. So 2008-ish, it was still pretty young in the Facebook world. So I put some ads out on the Mardi Gras forums, and put little, good old Craigslist, and I had a little blog that I started, blogspot.com. It's still up, it's still alive, St. Joan Krewe, and all those methods. I can remember I bought a little paper cutter so that I cut my little postcards that I would put out in cafes. So it was just old school. I'm starting this new walking parade, walk with us, and it was free to walk, and we had about 50 people in the first parade.
Yeah, I remember when y'all first started, it was,
Tiny.
you lack of better words, teeny tiny.
It was
now,
teeny tiny.
I mean, y'all have like a procession. I mean, it
is a full-blown
Yeah.
procession. Yeah, it was almost just like a little theater. We actually had a student from NOCA who had just finished doing Shaw's St. Joan, and so it was perfect because I had called NOCA I was calling places like NOCA and theaters and in other places to see what people might be interested. And so because they had just finished St. Joan, they sent their Joan to me, and I costumed her, and she did a monologue before the parade. So we had, things like that. There was another theater group that had done a Joan of Arc piece years before, and they came and sang some of the songs from it. So it was this interesting hodgepodge of people who maybe knew a lot about Joan or had some art related to it. One guy was carrying a painting. I've never found that guy. There's a picture of him.
Yeah, there's a picture of it.
Yeah, carrying this big oil painting he'd done of Joan of Arc. So it was really interesting. But yeah, we were kind of a ragamuffin little medieval troupe marching down to
With a
Cater
horse.
after a big point. Yes, the one response to my Mardi Gras forum was the neighbor of a woman in Lady Godiva told me, I know the woman who lives next door to me has a horse and rides in Lady Godiva. Let me ask her. And so he asked her, and she had armor, and well, she made armor, and her husband had armor because he had been a knight in Lady Godiva. So we had our first Joan and our first Bastard of Orleans already costumed that first year.
Wow.
And Susan Gislason made a couple of banners. So it was just kind of cobbled together. Those were the days of real candles, so we carried real candles. We did have matchbooks and atomic fireballs. Those are still, we don't throw as many atomic fireballs, but we still give out matches. Those are from the very first year. And then you were there, and you were still living in Wisconsin.
But
So
I was
I'll
there,
let-
nonetheless.
She was there, yeah. So you can tell how you arrived there.
Well, I got into the parade when it first started, my very first year, their very first year, and I was living in Wisconsin, and I was leading volunteer groups to come down and help with the rebuilding. And so, me being an academic, we always timed these trips during my winter break, and so I was there every year, even before I moved down here, because it's a pretty perfect activity for a church group to get involved with. My goal, I thought what would really save New Orleans was getting everybody to fall in love with it. And so I had these weeks, we'd be gutting houses all day, and then we went for experiencing the culture all over the place every night. So that was our
So was that your
that was
first,
the highlight.
was your first procession the
2009.
year
Yeah.
after?
2000.
Oh, no, it was
No,
2009.
It was
Yep.
2009.
Yeah, and so I had met Amy because I
We're
worked for the
still very
Louisiana
young.
Museum Foundation, and a mutual friend introduced us and said, "You guys do the same things. You should do something."
Yes,
Yeah.
you need to meet, yeah.
Yeah, and so we did, and I had been active in living history before that, so I already had a medieval costume and showed up, got soaking wet, ended up with
poured that
bronchitis.
first year,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that first year
Oh my God, it was
absolutely poured like the kind of sheets of rain, cars pulling
Only
off
New
the
Orleans kind
road.
of rain, right, blinding rain.
It
And
was
we were on
crazy.
the river, we started at
At the
Williamsburg
peace,
Park.
at the peace
Yeah,
statue.
the
So
peace
all
statue,
this
yeah.
paper, all the paper decorations.
I had a
and
paper
stuff,
mache, her voices were this beautiful paper mache sculpture a local artist had made, and it was crushed by that and my cupcakes that I was
We,
pouring in my weekend.
one of the cool things about that first year, though, was one of the people who came was Little Penny
Mhm.
and her daughter Martha, and she came as a shepherdess, and her daughter Martha was
A lamb. She dressed
Five?
as a lamb.
was she 4,
7.
7?
Yep, she was 7. Yeah.
She was in a wagon dressed as a lamb, little
Mhm.
furry lamb on, and she went on to be a very active member of the parade. Lil was always active, and then Martha became our maid. You know,
In 2018.
2018.
She was our Joan of Arc. Yeah, Lil was a good example of someone who the French community caught wind of it, and a lot of them were the core members, and they continue to be. So she was a French teacher at McGee and had heard about it, and she actually helped me that first year kind of piece together different Joans. We now have these, we portray her life, and so we have Joan as a child and Joan as a prisoner and all the way through her life, but at the time, of course, I didn't have that. I had the one woman on a horse, so Lil helped. There was a young woman named Claire from one of her classes. She played the peasant Joan. So we kind of outfitted all these different women, and even had one Golden Joni on the pony who had a costume made so that she could be all in gold and represent the statue. So we had all these different Joans, but we had to just kind of pick and choose. I had to just hand pick those ladies and girls, and now it's just part of the battalions.
each
have
battalion now has their own portrayal of Joan.
I really like how the city erected that golden statue in y'all's honor, though. That's
At least you didn't say. One time I was about to go on an interview, and the newscaster, thankfully I don't even remember who this was, but she was like, "I love the Joan of Arc statue in Jackson Square."
Doesn't add up.
No.
we had that fun story about Simone, though, in connection with that statue, which was kind of crazy because that statue wasn't originally there. It was elsewhere.
Harris.
It was at where
Where
Harris
Harris
is
is now.
for
Yeah,
the
big
World's
old world,
Fair,
right?
and then it was taken down, and it was in a warehouse.
And it wasn't gilded.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't gilded until it came to the French Quarter.
So it was
Was it-
languishing
it was-
in the
Was it
warehouse.
gilded?
Polished maybe, but
Yeah,
not,
but it
nothing
wasn't
like it was
gilded.
now.
Right.
Yeah, because I remember seeing it like in grade school. We'd go visit it, and that was one of the patriarchs of the city, or the maid of New Orleans, I think they
Right,
call
right.
her. So when you were in that area, your teacher told you about it. Told you the story, and I don't recall it being gilded though, but it was like polished, maybe
But
polished
because
brass.
Brass, yeah.
it's a bronze statue underneath that. So
Yeah, but it gleams. That was nice of them to put up for you though. Really.
we like that they put it on the parade route
With your
too.
own
Yes, it was
statue.
convenient. It's very convenient. Yes.
When we first paraded, like the first 4 or 5 years, we
Oh,
literally
We were tiny enough to end there.
we walked across
Yeah.
between
Yes.
her butt and
Yes.
the French Market
wow.
Cafe.
That was right, and then we'd have a party at the Market Cafe. The horse would stay out in the little area by the statue. We could all fit in the cafe.
And then we were in Dutch
Then
Alley.
we started to go to the alley and the French Market, and that.
Honestly,
Yeah.
To be honest, I haven't seen y'all since y'all were tiny.
Yeah.
It's because we've had a little tradition where we go to the barn and
Yes.
watch Funny 40
Funny 40,
Fellows,
I
and
understand.
by the time that rolls out and we kind of all gather up, y'all are done. It's kind of impossible to hit both of them, but
Well, then you can be the one to propose to Errol, as I have. I've got
Multiple times.
multiple times.
We're friends
about,
with all of them.
If Zulu and Rex can toast each other, they don't. Yeah, we can ride our horse up to your Well, now we can't run over.
Well, it'd be
We'll talk about
easier
that.
now. We can go right on that.
We
Yeah.
can go right
Well,
on
that's
that's what I had proposed in the first couple years.
Close,
Yeah, that I was like, if we could figure out a way when you guys are closer to Lee Circle or wherever they are, then that would be so cool.
Yeah.
But we'll figure it out someday.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
this year, we're doing a toast with them at the Barnum in Carrollton. So it's our 100th anniversary.
Okay.
So we're doing a toast. So you can't have them this year, but next year.
Okay, next year we'll figure out a way to plan it. Let's work on that.
Yeah, so I know that y'all have several stops that y'all do on your route. You know, that it's not just everyone's familiar with, like on the St. Charles route where they stopped and toasted Gallagher Hall. I know y'all have several, I would call them ceremonial stops. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we our parade starts over on Bienville and North Front Street on the riverside of Decatur, and we cross Decatur, we come up to Charters, and we make our first stop at the Williams Research Center, which is run by the Historic New Orleans Collection. And that location is a blessing of the royalty. And usually it began years ago because of connections that
Our first queen.
queen had.
Yeah,
And-
Betsy Gamble. Yeah.
It was just a really, originally just going to be sort of a takeoff of that Gallagher Hall toast, but it's evolved into a much more serious event. Their Krewe Circle, which is their young professionals, hosts the event in there, and it's Daniel, their executive director, it's the mayor, it is the French consulate or a representative, and any dignitaries that are in town. Each time the French have come, they've been there. We have media there. It's turned into a big thing, and basically what they're doing in English and French is toasting the maid, the king, and the queen. And our characters actually aren't selected to play themselves, they play the characters within Joan's story. So it's King Charles VII, who at that point is the Dauphin, he hasn't been crowned yet, and it's Queen Yolande, and it's Jeanne d'Arc.
So, how do you go about selecting your royalty? Or
Want to talk about that?
Yeah. Well, you talk about the main one, Amanda can talk about the royalty.
So our royalty, we do it a little different than a lot of crews. We do not choose royalty who are crew members. We present it as a community award, and it's usually, in the last few years, as it's shaped up into a tradition where it's a surprise to them. So we present them with a box that has a proclamation inviting them, and it outlines the dates they have to commit to and that kind of thing, because I think a lot of people, they think about a royalty as being an honor, and it certainly is, and we certainly intend it to be so, but it's also kind of a big ask for very busy people.
Yeah.
Especially
It's a
during
big
the
time
holidays.
commitment, and then you're
yeah.
expecting them to compose speeches.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really kind of a huge investment on their part as well. So we went to that because it's kind of fair to let them think it over and be real about whether they want to do this, and they don't have to do it. But they almost always say yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right,
They-
yeah.
they are, yeah.
And one thing that's really different than a lot of crews is there's no financial request from them.
No, it's
Yeah.
really pay to
This is
play.
not
It's
a-
free to be.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, we don't ask them to pay towards the crew to be in it. We really look at this as
An award.
an award.
Yeah.
that's really a throwback to, how neighborhood parades used to be. The
Oh.
only one I can remember that I know of that still does that is Driftwood in Kenner. Selects
Oh.
basically by how much they did for the neighborhood. That
Yeah.
and
That's
that's how they
cool.
select them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of a neat old tradition. Not sure if you realize you brought it back.
I know. There's a lot of things like that we don't realize are.
Yeah, our king we select to embody our French heritage, the French heritage of Louisiana and New Orleans, and the queen. We focus on people who are networking. So Queen Yolande funded Joan's army, and she built a lot of alliances that kind of laid the groundwork so that when Joan came on the scene, there was everything was primed, ready to go. And so we focus on women business leaders, women who mentor other women, women who are working kind of behind the scenes to bring people together and make things happen.
It's got a wide range, like our last one, Beth Arroyo, from, YES and WWZ, very different than someone like Betsy Gamble and PR.
Or Sandra Dardis.
Right,
Yeah.
Liz Williams, who founded the Southern Food and Beverage Museum, so kind of from every different kind of area of the, different industries in the city, yeah.
But that's the thing, though, it's, you're giving them an honor based on, their contributions.
yeah.
It's been interesting too because it's the three of us who make these decisions.
Right.
So we certainly have solicited over the last few years suggestions from other people, but I would really say it really has been us.
Yep.
Looking at, I mean, we have a lot of connections within the community. Amy and I are both in the business community and the creative arts community there. Amanda's in the academic community. So between the three of us, we probably know a huge portion of women who are out there doing things professionally. And I think the selections that we've made over the years have just really, not just in the year we selected them, but in the following years, what they've done. I mean, T. Martin was our queen 2 years ago,
Yes.
and her contribution continue.
Yep.
Liz Williams, a lot of people don't know a lot of the things that she did in the background, but she's the reason that we have a lot of these organizations that are nonprofits, both for music and food and different creative endeavors. Sandra Dardis with the French
Quarter Festival.
French Quarter Festival.
Yep.
It's just amazing what they've done in the background, and nobody really knows. And Betsy, who was our first
queen.
she has mentored so many young women who have gone on to bigger careers in the marketing field in New Orleans and really made a mark on tourism and the hospitality industry. And that's to us what we really want to see is what are these women doing for the community, and we want to recognize them. When we asked T, it was really funny because she had never been asked.
There's quite
ever.
a few of the queens. Most of these queens are not people that you.
And she's in a crew.
They have a long resume and they've won plenty of awards, like maybe a City Business Women of the Year award, but they've never been in that Mardi Gras echelon. They've never been invited to be royalty for something like that. It just doesn't. It's just not who they are, or it's just not something that they've been recognized for. So yeah, I think for most of them it's their first time ever reigning in something.
The queen this year was really cute when we gave it because she's younger than most of the queens that we have, but she's achieved so much in the amount of time that she's been working in the community in New Orleans. And we put this package together and we caught her we had to catch her in between work and other things. And I drove to her house. She was coming home from walking her dog. I had texted her to meet her. I said, we have this box we want to drop off. Like that sounds a little strange.
Not
so it's like, who are these people?
They wouldn't be warning me if it was a bad box.
Right, I guess. So I'm like parked in the middle of New Orleans and I'm meeting her and she's in shorts and she's all sweaty and she has her bottle of water and she's like, oh, okay. And so I give her the box and it's all wrapped and it looks gorgeous. And I said, well, you don't have to open it now. I wanted to make sure I put it in your hands and we do need you to open it soon. And she was like ripping it all apart.
Like a kid on Christmas.
How would you not open that?
Right. Yeah.
So if you dropped off at a doorstep of some porch pirate guy.
Right, yeah.
I'd be happy to take it.
So she's like ripping it all apart, and she opens it, and it opened. The paper stuck. The invitation stuck to the top, so she couldn't see it. All she saw was this doll with no face that looks sort of like that.
She's like, wow, it's a beauty
But she's
doll.
like, I said, no. And I put down the thing, and then she read it, and she burst into tears.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah.
I mean, and they were happy tears. She's like, oh my God, are you asking me? And she was just so shocked.
Yeah.
But it was just, we've had our royalty talk about it, and Amanda and I were just at Beth's office, and we did the handoff between the two queens, and the one thing that Beth kept saying was it was a life-changing moment.
Yeah, this is going to change your life.
And when T was talking to the queen, when she did it the previous year, she said the same thing. She's like, this day, of all the things I've done in my life, was the most important to me. And I thought, wow.
Really?
We're like,
Made the right selection.
Yeah.
we're just like
Yeah.
we're just a little crew, and that's
Mm.
Well, you
that's
know,
really
I mean,
smart.
unique-
Mardi Gras, well, New Orleans itself is a pretty small town, really.
Yeah.
When you look at it, but smaller than that is a little microcosm of Mardi Gras people. We're not that many that put on so many parades and all that. I mean, but you know, very few people get that honor of riding as king or queen,
Yes.
or you know, typically it's very expensive and it's out of people's reaches. You know, so to be named it, especially as a surprise like that, it's got to be incredible. You know.
And we now have them luxuriously riding in pedicabs.
Yes, so they don't have to
With
ride a
fake
horse
horses.
anymore.
Our early queens rode on horses, and then I made our poor king walk, which was kind of a joke to us. I would always say, "Sorry, Charles VII, you did nothing for Joan. Helped you crown, so you will be walking." But
Yeah.
now they are treated equally, and they both ride in a pedicab. Yeah.
Yeah. We found out today, our king this year, Louis Michaud, of course, has a lot of French connections, being a French Louisianan, and he has been so excited. He's been doing all of this research into his genealogy, and his family came from France, of course. And one of the things he talked about in his coronation was that he had taken his two boys to see the statue of Joan of Arc in the town that they came from. And it was one of the cities that Joan attempted to let the see John, but failed. And so this morning he texted us, and he had gotten in touch with some other relatives in France and traced back a little further, and he's actually related to Charles VII.
Oh,
Is
wow.
that crazy?
Yeah.
She's walking around the workshop showing us
Oh,
all
we're
this
like,
text,
"Look,
and we're
he's
like,
he's
what is
related."
going on? It happens. That's the kind of weird stuff that happens with
Yeah.
us. We have this hashtag Joan Provides. Like, we'll just think of something, and then like a couple days later,
Like the horse.
or there'll be these strange connections, or a lot of the queens that we've asked, they've been surprised, but then we'll find out later that they had some deep connection to Joan of Arc that we would never have known of. We think of them as, a business leader, and then they'll have these stories about.
Yeah, that's what happened with Simone.
Yep.
That was a crazy one. That was a really crazy one. She was renting a warehouse. That's what I was going to say about the statue. So the statue was in this warehouse. It moved out of the warehouse. The warehouse was abandoned. She owns Demo Diva, and she was looking at warehouses along the
Right
riverfront
after Katrina.
after Katrina,
Yeah.
and she found this warehouse she wanted to rent, and she was in the warehouse walking through, and she saw this paper, this poster-sized thing laying on the ground, and she's looking at it, and she's like, I think that's a...
And it like defied reason because everything was
Everything was-
destroyed. But there was
everything.
this piece of paper on the ground. But whereas like
undestroyed.
a post Katrina warehouse, empty,
Right.
flooded, and whatever. Yeah.
Just at the moment when she was thinking about
Did she want to
growing
make
the
this?
business, and
Yeah.
where was she gonna really
Like, should I
go
be
in
doing
this
this?
direction?
Right.
And of course, Demo Diva turned out to be
A
a
great
big
decision.
success.
Oh, but you didn't tell what the
and
paper was.
Yeah, that's kind of the
Okay, that's the point. Yeah.
It was a poster of Joan of Arc.
Oh.
Just randomly in the
Random.
warehouse. So she tells us this when we're taking her out for lunch. And we, of course, wouldn't have had any idea. So we're all crying. She's telling us the story, and we're just like, wow.
She now has it framed in her
Yeah,
office.
it's in her office. Yeah.
But yeah, randomly. Yeah. It was just really, I mean, the same kind of thing happens all the time. Like, this is what happened with the horse. As Amy works now for Jefferson Performing Arts Society, and I do freelance work with Ages Ago Estates, which is Raphael's
Raphael,
place.
yep.
And Raphael got the contract to help clear out the costumes and the props. So we're wandering over there, and the week before we had been recapping, saying, there's a problem with the horse, it's
We
hard
can't
to,
find a big enough.
we can't get a big enough horse in
have
here,
this
because we
tiny
work
horse.
exclusively with rescue horses who are used in therapy riding. And we've
Okay.
done that
Yes.
from the very
Right,
beginning,
right.
because we feel strongly that horses shouldn't be abused any more than people should.
Right.
So we've always worked with these horses, but they're hard to find, and it's hard, a lot of them don't handle crowds well.
the French quarters are really tough.
It's a
That's
tough
a
place
tough
for
route, 'cause
horses.
there's no-
Yeah. There's no room.
barricades,
Yeah.
and it's really tight quarters.
And the road is really uneven, and you know it's treacherous for a horse anyway. But we last year had some spectators throw bottle rockets under the horse,
Oh,
The
that's
little
smart.
poppers.
and
Is it a
we
popper?
were we were just really lucky that our maid had some equestrian experience. That the horse was very small, and the Tara was there to handle it. Because it could have been disastrous for both the
Yeah.
horse and the maid. And it's not the first time.
And possibly people in the crowd.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we just were thinking all year long, it's like, what are we going to do? And then there was trouble getting the horse. And we're like, man, you know, it would be nice if we could have something instead of that horse. And Amy said something joking about a wooden horse. And then, what was it, like 3 days later, she's in the props warehouse. And there's this giant wooden horse.
Oh,
Yeah,
not
we
where
had used
I
it
was.
for Cinderella.
2
Yeah.
weeks ago.
Oh,
maybe?
you were at the costume shop. Oh, yeah, with Raphael. Yep.
So you saw
I've
it.
seen you there. Yeah, yeah.
No, I didn't know.
You didn't see the
You didn't see the
horse.
horse.
That was kind of.
Well, we have a sneak peek picture if you want.
Yeah.
Ooh,
That's
okay.
it, yep.
Yeah, so this horse is actually the size of, it's a 14-hand horse, so it's a full, large horse, about the size of what the horses in that era were. The horses then were a blend of an Asian or a horse and Arabians, so they were definitely bigger horses. Not what we think of Percherons, they're smaller than that, but a really big horse. And this horse is about the size.
Yeah,
Of
it's
those
enormous,
horses.
Yep.
And so we are putting it on a rolling platform. So she's going to be, her saddle will be about 6.5 feet off the ground, which is a nice height for
Yeah.
a
Think
parade.
Raphael's pulling?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
No.
Around his neck.
Yeah. No, we have horse handlers who will be pulling the horse on the cart and
Community service hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, there they go. But yeah, it should be. It's a nice addition, and I think it's a definitely one of the things that sets our parade off. And, you know, we're not a Mardi Gras parade. We're at the end of the Christmas season.
Right.
Yep. We're
And
Epiphany.
we're actually a procession rather than a parade. So we're always juggling that perception with the crowds because we tell a story from start to end. And Amanda was actually instrumental in helping kind of pull that back around because we talked about it for years how it made this progression, but it wasn't really clear to the audience that it told
Yeah,
the
we
story.
didn't have the banners noting what was what or who was who. Yeah.
So now it runs from this birthday cake and this gestures and carnival, and then it goes right into her birth and in her early life in Don Remy, and then to the voices, and then to the knights, and then to the village of Orleans, and then to the royalty in that moment, and then her trial, and then her death, sadly, and then the restoration of her, and then we go into the sainthood, and now we have this new section of legacy. So we tell the story of her life and her influence on the current day. And that's a new section that we put in last year. But that made a big change, and that's one of the things that makes us so different from other groups that are part of Mardi Gras, is that it's a very different kind of thing.
Yeah.
We don't change a theme, it's Joan of Arc.
Right.
Right.
Well, I can remember the reason so Amanda builds a lot of our props, so she built this beautiful birthday cake, enormous, and that was because I asked for a cake because it was Pat Jolly.
Yeah,
at a
it was
party. It was like and she's in Funny 40 Fellows, and so she's one of many people who would say, "Oh, I wish I could do both, or wish I could see both." But she like many people said to me, "Well, why do you do it on 12th night?" In this kind of accusatory,
You're like,
and I was like,
are you
it
stealing
was Joan of Arc's
thunder?
birthday, and so I was
Right.
suddenly like so tired. It was about 5th or 6th year, and I was like, I can't. It's so sad that like people think we just came up with 12th night. Seems like a great night to add a parade and a French parade. So I was like, can we please have a visual? Like if it's a birthday, whatever it has to be, a cake. Can we please just tell people out front that this is what we're doing? And so.
We have a birthday cake.
Yeah, we have an enormous birthday cake with gestures, and we added the
Carried
gestures.
by
and
the gestures.
yeah.
Which
so,
this year is 612. And it's our 16th year.
but it's only our 14th Joan, so
Yeah.
I'll tell you a little bit about our Joan. So we didn't have it. The Joan that we had the very first year, like I said, was really just recruited by Mardi Gras forums. And like many women in Hollywood, it was played by a much older woman. It was played by a woman in her 40s, you know. So I had done research on the parade in Orléans, France, and they, for 500 and something year, I think they were in their 594th year of the parade or something. Although they claim they've been doing it since 1429, but I'm not sure that's really
But it may not have been a parade.
an actual
It wasn't a
parade, like an
parade,
actual
yeah.
festival. So
We have a story about that.
they always choose a girl from the community to represent Joan. So we started to do that the second year. So in 2010, we had our first Joan. So it's an application that is a pretty straightforward. There's an essay of why they think, you know, why is Joan of Arc significant? Why do you think we have a parade for Joan of Arc? And then tying Joan of Arc into their own lives in some way. You know, how would you say that you were like Joan of Arc? And then explaining their own leadership abilities and accomplishments. And so they apply and have 2 recommendation letters. Well, now I think we're down to 1 because it was like I was chasing everybody down. It started with 3, then it was 2, and I'm like, just get us 1. And sometimes they send in a lot more than that. But so they have a recommendation, and then we have a committee now who selects the top 3. I interview the girls, the top 3 in English, and then the Consul General's cultural attaché interviews them in French. And then we talk it over, and the one is selected. And so it's a selection process, unlike the king and queen. And now, as of 2 years ago, this young lady also is offered a scholarship to go for 10 days to Orléans, our sister city, to represent us, represent the parade, meet the other Joan of Arc from their city. And then this year, their Joan of Arc is coming to us for the first time ever.
Yeah.
And that's also through the same exchange program between the Rotary clubs. It was just, again, the synchronistic things that always happen with these situations was that the Rotary clubs in Orléans and New Orleans were getting together to form their own little sister city alliance, not knowing, well, our New Orleans Rotary didn't know that we really were literally a sister city with Orléans since 2018.
Yeah.
So they were like, what? And then they also weren't aware of our parade. And so once it all just came together where they were like, oh, this is interesting because what we do is, you know, exchanges, and what do you think about maybe exchanging the Jones? And it was like, well, obviously, yes, that would be a dream. So that's a big deal, historic.
So you had a list of questions. We haven't
Yeah.
let you talk.
So, well, kind of partially y'all are answering them as we go along. So we've talked about, I guess the selection process for your royalty. Who are your royalty this year? You all mentioned the king. But
Show of Lost Bayou Ramblers. Hannah Krieger Benson, who is a musician also, and
Music Coalition.
yes,
Well, it's got a longer name than that.
yeah, it does.
Music
Macno.
and Culture Coalition of New Orleans.
Thank you.
She's an advocate for financial and creative licensing and independence for musicians and creatives. And then, of course, Marley Marsalis is our maid this year.
all right.
Who actually lived in Orléans from age 11 to 13, which is quite
She
amazing.
was there when we were there
Yes.
in 2018.
Yeah, so we were invited. So when the Sister City agreement was signed, part of the inspiration, honestly, but Mitch was very inspired to do it. It was his last year in office, and it was the beginning of our tricentennial year. So it was the timing was perfect. And the mayor of Orléans was thrilled that we had our little baby Joan of
Joan of Arc
parade.
parade.
So they came. Our city really wanted them to come to help kick off our tricentennial as a big splash. So they came a couple days before the parade, signed the Sister City Agreement at City Hall, and then walked in our parade. The mayor of Orléans and his contingent walked with us, and then they invited
brought
us.
the costumes.
And they did. They
Yeah.
did. They brought some costumes for us to borrow of the pages, and who else was it?
3 nights.
Okay.
No, 2 nights. The pages and the maid.
So that was our first. That was the non-human exchange, but it was a costume exchange.
Yeah.
Now we have the human exchange, and then they invited us to come, and so we went
We
to.
walked in their parade.
All right.
That was crazy.
Crazy, amazing.
It was
Full
crazy.
day.
Their parade is very official.
Because
It's organized by the government, right?
Yeah, it's a
Archbishop.
D-Day /
Right,
The
military.
church, the
Yes.
military.
The day she lifted
the
the
whole
siege
shebang.
of
Oh,
Orleans.
so that's the story.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
that's
yeah.
the story. This one was a tearjerker. So we went in 2018, and they had their first mixed race Joan. So it was a big controversy in France. This whole
Yeah,
you
she was
know,
getting hate mail and all kinds of
yeah. So the Joans from all the living Joans from 1945 was the oldest one forward, got together in a society, and that president of that society now lives in Washington, and she's going to be in our parade this year.
Daphne, yep.
And Benedict was the president at that time,
Mhm.
and she is going to be walking with us also from France. But so we're there. There were 3 of us there that night. Amy and Amanda hadn't gotten there yet. I was there with one of our other board members, and we were at this little ceremony to inaugurate this group. And so they're showing slides in the background of the maids on their horses. And they're showing all these slides, and this lady is there in a wheelchair, and I had brought little favors for them because we give doubloons, and that year we had metal doubloons for the first time, and I had taken these metal doubloons to give to each one of the maids for them to sort of, be a part of us. And I'm giving it to the lady in the wheelchair as the picture is showing behind us of the American soldiers beside the horse in 1945. And this was the woman who was the maid on the horse as the bells were ringing and the American
D-Day.
soldiers
D-Day.
came through
Yep.
on to lifting the military siege on their city
On
that
right.
day
Yeah,
while
same
she's
day.
on a horse.
So
Which is
Joan
crazy.
They were
liberated.
still parading.
Joan
Yeah.
liberated Orleans from the English and
In
Burgundian
1429.
in 1429 on May 8th, and then
on
V-
May
V-Day.
8th,
the
on
liberation
V-Day
of the city of Orleans from
was May
the
8th.
occupation of the Germans in World War II was also May 8th. So the French Joan was literally
On a horse.
on the horse ready to begin the parade under German occupation when the bells were ringing.
I love their
Wow.
And the
dedication to the parade. Wow.
they've
Yeah,
never
they
called
were
it.
still.
The
They've
Raiders
never called
here, they call them off.
And it turns out
The Germans
that
can't stop us.
yeah, they
The
couldn't.
Germans love marching, so they were probably
Yeah,
like,
they-
whatever,
whatever.
just, yeah.
Uh,
March.
young woman on a
Yeah.
horse.
Right, they probably loved it.
But the soldiers who came in were from Wichita, Kansas. So the group of military men who walked beside her were from Wichita, Kansas. So one of the first connections that we had was this organization that is Wichita, Kansas, Orleans, and New Orleans. And so that was, really how we got our trip put together was through this connection between the sister cities and the organization that they built up based on that relationship. But we met her and we're like, it was just one of those moments where you're just like, what? What did you just? And she
Yeah.
doesn't speak any English. She was speaking in French, and we were all in tears. It was just crazy.
So their parade starts like as a military parade. I mean,
Oh.
there's jets overhead. It is a military parade at the beginning, and then by the end, it's Joan and medieval. So, but
Yeah.
it takes all day because they have people from all over France. They have all sorts of
The
ceremonies
bishop
happening.
is there.
Yeah, the prime minister was
Prime
there the year we
minister
were
is
there.
there.
And you go throughout the entire town of Orleans. I mean, it is.
It's really long.
It
They actually have an
for-
intermission.
Yeah, you get an hour break, which is something we
Really?
need to institute here. You
Yeah.
get an hour break, you
They gave
go
us
eat,
juice
drink,
boxes and
sit.
cookies.
The only thing missing was the wine and cheese.
Yeah.
It was like so
T-Rex
French.
does that,
Yeah.
which I find hilarious.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
like, that floats this big. You're taking an admission.
Take a 2-minute break for your ticket.
Well, this one we
intermission.
needed that break.
This was
It
like an hour,
Oh my God.
right?
We
Yeah, we're
were
like going over the Loire. on
Yeah,
the
we went over a
bridge.
bridge.
Yeah,
we
it
went
was
up
like-
the hill. We went down the hill. We went across. I mean, we went all over.
The sun was setting when we were done, and it had started at
We were
8
sunburned.
a.m. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, we were very warm. I remember that.
It was
Yeah.
unseasonably hot for France.
And
of
we
course,
started.
us being a winter parade.
Yeah, we're all
Our
dripping
costumes
wet,
are
all
always pretty
terrible.
warm.
And
Yeah.
Amanda's costume is actually this big floating cloud on
She
a
does
thing.
sing.
So
Why don't you talk about that? The scenes,
Yeah.
the voices,
the
singing.
props.
And I think one thing that's kind of different about our parade is that we are a state procession at the same time as being a Mardi Gras parade. And so we view ourselves as a secular arts organization, and there's no religious ties, but certainly there are a lot of people in our parade who are motivated by spirituality and who see Joan as a spiritual inspiration. It's in my section. It's kind of funny, I'm actually Protestant, but I still think it's very spiritual. So my section is the section that tells the moment when she heard God's voice. She heard God's voice through 3 saints. Saint Catherine with the wheel, Saint Michael, the archangel, that's the one I play, and Saint Margaret. And Saint Margaret is Antioch, right? Saint Margaret of Antioch, who is traditionally depicted with a dragon, and so obviously a true story.
Yes, it's all facts.
Subsequently, the
Fact.
Catholic Church has
100%.
actually declared
Catholic
Saint
facts.
Margaret
Yeah.
to be apocryphal, but in medieval times she was a super popular saint, and actually a lot of those dragon stories were more of a metaphor, allegory. So the dragon was the symbol of the devil.
Yeah.
It's much more symbolic than literal.
Yeah.
And so our St. Margaret has a dragon. For many years, we had a cute little, rather portly dragon. As I was making him, he got more and more portly accidentally as I was making him. And the dragon was held above Margaret. So each of these 3 saints in our parade has about a 12-foot prop. So I, as St. Michael, have a cloud over my head with the rays of light coming down, and St. Catherine has a big wheel that she pulls behind her, and St. Margaret had a dragon over her head. But last year, we built a new Dragon 2.0, and we separated the dragon and Margaret, and this new dragon is so mobile.
Yeah, it's
And he really has,
Forced
he
to be
takes
dragon.
up
Plays.
less space in the storage, but he has a bigger presence on the street.
his wings.
His way, and everything moves.
Yes, it's very graceful. And you have 2 people inside of it?
Yeah, 2 people. The front person, he's held up above them in backpacks, and the front person operates the head, which is
Okay.
on a pole, and the back person operates the wings. And the legs of the dragon are connected to their pants, so that as they take normal steps, the dragon's legs make big magnified steps, so it really looks like the dragon is walking. This dragon got skinnier and skinnier as I made him, but this year he's going to get haunches. So he's
gonna get a little
we'll
chubbier
fatten
again.
him out, we'll fatten him up a little bit. You give him a little more
From the
substance,
king
but
I mean, that's first
Yeah.
take.
yeah. We
Not that
had a
sugar.
crew contest to name the dragon, and the name that was chosen by the crew members was Adversaire, which is French for the adversary,
Okay.
which is really fitting when you think about how
Margaret.
the dragon was in all that medieval lore as a symbol of the devil or the adversary.
Right. Everything sounds better in French.
It
Yeah.
sure seems like y'all have grown large way since last time I'd seen you.
Mhm.
How many members do y'all have now?
About the same as we
Well,
had.
we will
For
have.
Sadly, we don't have that many
possible.
paying
Well,
members.
we
You just have a lot
have,
of groups.
there's a lot of, different
Walking
types of
groups.
membership, so we
Right.
will have about 400 people
Okay.
walking the
Right.
parade.
And we consider our volunteers, because we costume all of them, we consider our volunteers, our foot soldiers, to be members. They have a lot of the benefits that
Mm-hmm.
members in other crews have. They go to all the events, they can participate in things, they can buy tickets to the banquet, they can go to the coronation. But we really depend on them, and our ratio is about 1 volunteer to 1 paid member.
Right.
So then you
Each
add in,
contribute.
And then you add in all the walking groups
So
and
this-
Yeah, I
that's.
know y'all
The
have a lot of people
volunteers-
that kind of tag along in the
The
neighborhood.
volunteers do a lot of the things, carrying the banners and that kind of stuff. And the full members, they have a lot of creative input.
Yes.
They choose their own costume, they can choose what character they play, they choose where they want to walk in the parade, and I think really a lot of the magic of the parade comes from the
Their
individual
invention, yeah.
ideas. There, people get really into it,
Yeah.
and I one of the things I really try to do is give them a lot of inspiration where people really learn in depth. We have a conference every year.
Yes.
Our Salon de Jeanne d'Arc in
Yeah.
partnership
She
with.
reinvigorated the book club.
Yeah, we have a book club.
Yeah, we have a
Yeah.
book
We have an
club,
art
and
contest.
we have an online library, and we have the juried art exhibit. So we have these multiple facets where people are invited to really explore the topic, and they really do. I mean,
Right.
the level
Yeah.
of detail of some of these members'
Yeah.
costumes
I've,
is really
I've
just
seen a lot of the
amazing.
costumes. A lot of my friends participate.
Oh, yeah.
You know, or I would say most of them are kind of the second line to you guys. I'm not sure if they're actual members or what, but they all that night are all in costume and all. You know, when I run into them later that day, they're all still full-fledged going. You know, so.
We have a lot, that is one thing that I've seen too, is that we have an awful lot of people. The first few years it wasn't as much. In fact, it was kind of discouraging when we handed out handmade throws and people were like, and threw them in the
You're
ground.
like, what is this?
It was very discouraging, when we were doing wood cuts and wood blocks and all of these beautiful handmade things. And now that people are like, can we get them?
Yeah.
No, because people threw them in the street.
Right, we didn't, right, yeah.
But over the years, people started realizing what was going on, and I think as we recruited more and more artists, and as we started talking about, the story and the connections, and really encouraged this idea of exploring history through handmade crafts and the stories of Joan, these things that we make have a lot more meaning. And now, of course, like every other crew, we sell some of these things to make money to support
Yeah.
our crew.
This is the wrong
Francis.
item in this.
Oh.
I'm just
I
looking at
noticed
this,
that,
and I'm
that's a
realizing
necklace.
this
This
is
not the
not
necklace, but
But
we make
this is not
a.
a same medallion, but
But now, not
That's
only.
funny, someone
that
put that
happened.
together wrong.
someone put that together wrong.
This is what
Perhaps
happens
you
when you
should.
get volunteers.
But actually, let me show you this anyway.
Well, wait,
I'm,
wait,
I'm
let me
sure you
finish
have
this.
a good sword for that purpose.
You know,
I mean, it works. You
So
can't-
to
yeah.
your point though, before she shows you some of the cool stuff, we have a lot of people in the crowd now
yeah.
that dress.
That dress, yeah.
Oh, okay.
They come
Yeah, and full
in
families
full
will be
fam-
dressed.
and they come bringing swords that they received
Yes,
in
in
the parade
prior
previous
years.
years.
Well, and Doug McCash has done a great job of calling us a walking Renaissance fair. So
Yeah.
people who love the Ren Fair, they know what that means. They'll come
Yeah.
dressed
Yeah.
like they would to the Ren Fair. So it's got this interactive feel to it.
And a lot of them come with French signs.
Yeah,
And
you
they
hear a
really-
lot more
they
French
say happy
along the
birthday.
route now than it used to be, especially at the toast. There were a lot of people are very, very excited to hear the consul general speak.
Well, you really have the
Yeah.
perfect route for your theme and all, and the art is kind of side of the city. I mean, you're really in the central area right there.
Right.
Yeah,
You know.
It feels authentic. Yeah.
So, throws.
So throws, well, I thought I grabbed a Saint medallion,
Yeah.
but really I grabbed a sword pendant. So we have the sword pendants and the Saint medallion. Every year we do a different saint medallion, which is a picture of Joan. Every year we use a different image of Joan, a different setting. And the last several years, the image has come from one of the contributions to our juried art exhibit. So they're
Joan of Arc.
original pieces.
Yes.
Yes, Joan of Arc is
Yeah.
the name of the juried art exhibit,
Mm-hmm.
which is
At
in
Ariadante.
partnership with
Yeah.
Ariadante Gallery on Julia Street. And the prayer card is the card you see in the background here. And so this central image also this is by Max Bernardi. And this is also one of our juried art exhibit selections. For the last several years since we started the juried art exhibit, we've been using those. We always have a different central image, but this outer part is a real medieval, an authentic medieval border.
Okay.
And at a casual glance, a lot of people will think that border looks the same every year, but they're actually all different. They're all coming from the Book of Hours of Charles VIII. So only a generation, couple generations off. But they're, classic medieval, like the people in these niches,
Yeah.
chain job.
Yeah.
Right, all those tiny details are different every year. And on the back is a prayer, which is also different every year and is written by a different crew member.
I used to write them every year and I ran out of things to say, so I was like, why don't we start having other people write the prayers? And it's become another
Don't blame
honor
me.
for people, sorry. Like, it's a nice thing to think of who to ask to write the prayer, because then their name is on it and they
Yes.
write something a little bit different, but.
And
Yeah,
we use
this,
that.
this year's prayer was written by one of our women warriors.
Yes.
So last year, for the first time, we had a group of real women veterans. One of the VFW posts
Oh, okay.
here in New Orleans has a group of, that's what they call their group, women warriors. And it's one of them that wrote this year's prayer.
And she just wrote us, she didn't realize that it was printed on there. So she just wrote us today in an email.
What?
Like, she didn't know it was gonna be published on the prayer card?
Yes, she did.
No, she
Oh,
literally
scandal.
sent us an email
Scandal
today
went-
that said, I didn't realize that was gonna go to everybody on the prayer card. It was a beautiful little thank you.
assuming
You
she's
haven't
happy.
seen it because
It sounds like she's happy about it.
she was
Oh,
so
okay.
happy. She's
She's not
like,
gonna sue us for publishing her work without her
The
Yeah,
permission.
she
copyright
was like-
infringement.
it was
Yeah.
really
Contacted
touching.
her, I asked her, she was honored.
Yeah, well, now she's really honored.
Now that she knows there's thousands of them that will be handed out along the way.
I think it didn't hit her when you asked her, but now she saw it because she came to the thing today, and she saw it, and then she was like, everybody's gonna get this. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Everybody's gonna get
5,000.
this. 5,000 of our closest friends are gonna get a copy of this.
Well, of course, with Raphael involved, I know you guys do
Wouldn't
wooden doubloons, a metal shield. I have tons of the ones that Andy's painted.
Yes.
So-
This,
Oh, this is new.
this is a coaster, but this is a big image of our doubloon.
Oh, neat.
All right.
A large version, yeah.
We have
And I'll be
six-
playing the Wounded Joan this year.
Yes, she's gonna
thanks
have
to
an
Antoinette
arrow.
making me
Joan
a
was
costume.
wounded by an arrow, so we have kind of an arrow theme going this year.
Yeah.
And we have a few that are kind of funny. We have our matches.
Oh, the
Since
matches.
beginning.
Yeah, the
It's always
matches.
been a little sarcastic. since
And
the
we have,
beginning.
this year, we have a cheese knife,
Oh, Lord.
Krewe of Jeanne D'Arc,
Useful.
salutes le
Very
fromage.
Because there is a Joan of Arc brie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a real product, Joan of
Yeah.
Arc brie. And there's actually, they aren't all Joan bries. They're all French.
Bries.
The cheese knife would come in any one of 4 different French
French
cheese brands.
cheeses. And did you put a ruler in there?
I didn't put a ruler in there.
Because
I
that's
considered a ruler and never mind.
so that Amanda was talking about how creative our members are, and this is a real example of that in the restoration section. This Terry and her sister Judy. Terry's been in that section for a while, and a few years ago, how many years? 4, 5 years ago, she first kind of took over that section.
I feel like it's longer than
I
that.
think it's pretty long.
Yeah, I think it's been longer.
So she started walking in that section, and we've always asked, for people to take ownership. So Amanda has the voices, I have the nights, and Amy wanders everywhere, and happily, frequently with the Royals, but everywhere. But the other sections, like we have people that are designated in those sections, and this was a section that the person who was there, her husband became very ill, and she left, and has not been able to parade with us again. And this Terry came in and was like, I really kind of like this section. And this is the restoration section, is the segment of the story where Joan has died, and she's been excommunicated by the church, and her mother is petitioning the church for her to be brought back into
To
the
not be a
church.
heretic anymore.
Well, she
Yeah.
wasn't. Yeah, she
She
was a
formally-
heretic, and
Yeah,
she was formally
found to be a heretic and burned at the stake.
Yeah.
Right.
that was their whole reasoning. But she was never a martyr, which is a whole different thing. But she was excommunicated as part
Right,
of this
because
process
of that, yeah.
because of this. So her mother was like trying to get her back into the church. So she did, because that's, as a Catholic, the worst thing you can do to a Catholic is excommunicate
But
them.
she's
Right.
been canonized now, correct?
Yes, and
In
fact-
1920.
In fact,
Is it
it
that
took a
late?
long
So
time. It took
yeah.
a long time for the formal canonization, but in medieval times, that process of canonization was nowhere near as
Significant.
complex
Yeah.
and structured as it is today. So when they had this retrial, which was just 25 years after her death, give or take, they had this second trial and they found her to be innocent, and they
Yes.
actually declared her to be an innocent martyr. And at that time, if
That
you were
was
classed
that
as
was
a
just as
martyr,
good.
that was pretty much
You were a
safe. So
saint.
people did pilgrimages, indulgences were issued for pilgrimages
The church
to-
made
for
a
Joan.
mint on Joan, yeah.
Yes, they they did the whole. She was treated like a saint
Mhm.
from the moment when this retrial happened, and the retrial was amazing. It was an unprecedented
Yes.
thing in
It's
medieval
great to
history, where they took a
'Cause
they
it was-
gathered testimony, character witnesses. They gathered testimony of who Joan was from all walks of her life, which is
Childhood
almost
friends.
never done
Yeah.
in
No,
history.
Right.
no.
So
Particularly
they
for a
got her
woman.
childhood friends. They got her the men who served under her in
Priests.
the army, the priest, but all these people who worked with her, and they actually traveled. They moved this big trial from cathedral to cathedral around France. So they hung out in Notre Dame, and they hung out in Orléans Cathedral, and they stayed in those locations and gathered information from the witnesses there.
It's almost surprising that a lot of them were still alive, because in those days, I mean,
Right.
your life
25
expectancy
years,
was
that's
And so they were-
30,
so they were
40
old.
years.
By then they were old, and
Yeah.
you actually see a number of the characters in our parade appear twice because they were with Joan, say, as a knight on the battlefield, but then later in life they testified on her behalf in the second trial. So that same character shows up again in the Restoration Battalion. It was just such a. I mean, we know more about Joan than we know about Charles VII.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
much was documented.
Because
Yeah.
of she had two trials that were exceedingly well documented.
And pivotal moments in church history and
Yeah.
French history. I mean, one of the things that's different about us too is our mission statement is not to put on a parade. Our mission as an organization is to embrace our French cultural and heritage, but also to encourage education about Joan and the French history surrounding her and her influences on the modern day.
Yeah.
And that is our primary purpose as an organization, so that's why we do all these other things. It all comes into play because we are telling Joan's story in a way that fits New Orleans.
And in an artistic way. I mean, it's, you know, when I started, it was all about not having plastic beads and having handmade throws. And so it's a really great, I did a lot of street theater and puppet theater and worked, you know, with kind of alternative theater, and where it's a lot of the big puppets, or it's, you know, a lot of handmade everything, right? It's kind of rough and ready. They've prettied it up a lot, but it's still the feeling is there. Of like,
Sometimes.
it's from the streets, you know, it's
Yeah.
street theater, it's from the ground up. So that's a part of the mission too, is we call ourselves an army of artists. So I feel like it's the mission is to really kind of utilize Joan's story to also create
Embrace, yeah.
beautiful, just to create beautiful new things that really are, you know, positive and just a different way of using a parade,
Yeah.
right? For everybody's benefit in a different way.
Like he and I talk about it all the time, but we good about everything. We don't want any plastic beads, and nobody does, frankly. Like you can't give them away. So
I
like,
have no understanding of why crews continue. I mean, I've been in big crews.
it's because it's
The
expensive.
crews that I won't.
I can tell you because I throw all glass, and I'm riding
Yes.
in a few parades this year, and it's expensive.
Very expensive.
And that's
yeah.
kind of the only way to keep having you fun, you know,
Yeah.
if you want to throw a lot. But frankly, like if you buy a lot of plastic beads, you're throwing them on the ground.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, and-
except for the tourist areas, they might pick them up, but you know.
Yeah, and I'm friends with Arthur Hardy, and we've done a couple of different things together on Carnival history. And you know, originally Carnivals didn't throw out that many throws.
No.
I mean,
Yeah.
if
It was
you
a
if you
thing.
had 100
No,
things to
it's-
throw out during
it's
your
your
parade, you were
protocols.
like,
Every once in a
Well,
while
they
we
used to throw
remember.
like lie on people and stuff.
Yeah.
It was kind of like if you got an actual favor, you won the prize. You know?
Well, I mean, I also feel like when I was a kid, that I remember, there being times where if you got like, a little plastic bag of
yeah, you
throws,
did well.
you
That
did
was it.
really
You did
well.
right, right.
And now, I mean, there's a lot of people who feel like if I don't catch a 55-gallon drum of beads and whatnot, that the parade was no good. And it's like, no, I mean, for me, like Kirk was saying, I'd much rather go home with, a doubloon or,
Right.
A hand
Yeah.
decorated throw
yeah,
where, the person who threw it to me gave it their personal
Handed it,
touch.
right, and just
They
throw it
handed-
at your face.
right, yeah.
Right, anonymously. But
Yeah.
the handing of favors is a big, it's so intimate, and our parade, again, because of the narrow French Quarter Street, it just suits everything
Yeah.
about us. And the other thing too is like it's become the reverse of what you said, where people used to be very dismissive of the things we would hand them. I mean,
Now
it was
they're like,
funny.
"Oh."
The atomic
Yeah.
fireballs were funny. The matches were funny, but nobody was. You would I can distinctly remember some man yelling at me, and it was like he was speaking another language. I didn't know what he was talking about. And he just wanted doubloons. You know, like he had like a sign. And I'm thinking like, you're at the wrong grade.
Yeah,
dude.
we're,
Like,
we're both
not-
doubloon collectors.
Yeah,
We're a little crazy.
and it was like, okay, but you had those people the first year, second year, third year, and then maybe about midway through, like year 8, people are happy to receive stuff, and some people are still clamoring. They want Joan's sword, or they want, it's not like people aren't asking for things, or they want matches. But some people are just smiling
Yeah.
and like happy to see
They don't
you.
even
and-
have their hands out.
yeah, they
Right.
just say hi in French, or they're, it is, you can walk over and hug somebody because it's a walking parade, right? So it doesn't have that kind of crazy, mad grabbing for anything, People are just happy to be there, and it's cool, yeah.
Yeah.
I will say our crowds have hit a point now though where it's difficult. When we started out, we were kind of excited that I don't even know if we had 1,000 people watch us the first year. That would be like
In the
Maybe
We had
beginning,
maybe 100 at the statue when we got there, but I wouldn't say along the route there were many people at all.
in the beginning, like a saint procession, we welcomed people
To just walk behind us.
Just
Yeah.
jump in.
I just kept,
Jump
I would
in
just
and
say
walk
walk with
behind
us.
us.
Yeah.
And we finally
right.
had to stop that.
Yeah.
We're like, no,
Yeah.
we have a
Yeah.
permit. No,
Yeah.
we have numbers.
It
Maybe I'll
seems
just
like
do too
people-
good of a job, Calm down,
Yeah, yeah. No problem with the. I mean, I think the only thing with the crowds is, it was actually Arthur Hardy who told us, recommended that we extend the route because it was
Yeah,
getting
it was a
little
little
crammed
short.
up.
So we added
we added the full circle that goes now past the statue and down.
Okay, good.
But I think eventually we'll never go outside the quarter. But I mean, there are just certain spots that are very, very crowded now. Obviously, Jackson Square because of the sword blessing. That we
Yeah,
started to
that's
have
insane.
barricades. We didn't used to have to, but that's the one That's the one.
That's
place
the one
we-
place we have barricades.
Yeah, because it was getting a little nuts there.
And it was because, again, of the horse and the props.
Yes.
People were literally pushing things over and walking under the horse. And it's like,
That just doesn't add up to me. Like, I would never
would you
think
do
to do
that?
that.
Right. Why would you? Do
but I
Yeah.
see it all the time. People crossing parade
And I act a
routes.
fool, so,
So-
And if that doesn't occur to me, it shouldn't occur to anybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. It didn't cross your
Yeah,
mind.
it's been interesting, but we've passed the 20,000 mark now a
Of
few years.
audience,
Yeah,
yeah,
like
good.
a few years ago, and last year, this 2023, we hit close to 30,000, based on the spotting, and we
Right,
had a
the-
person gave us a drone
Yes,
picture
the drone
afterwards.
picture was
Oh,
nuts.
That
drone
picture.
is so cool.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'll have to send that to you. That's
That we know, and we've had the queens. The previous year in 2022, the queens were up on 3 of the queens were up on the balcony at Muriel's, and they took a photograph of Jackson Square during the blessing.
blessing.
And with the horse there and all the lights, because we hand out battery-powered lights, which are in your thing too.
Yeah.
I was gonna get the
Oh,
drone
the-
picture out, but
yeah.
maybe I should.
Oh no,
We'll
send
send it to you.
Yeah.
But we give out these little lights that are in the
Yeah,
package,
lights.
and so we hand out about 1,000 of those at the cathedral in advance. So when the parade gets there, these lights are lit
Yeah.
there.
Well,
And
yeah.
so the queens took a photograph of it, and it was just
Yeah.
so cool to see it.
That's neat.
Oh, I can't walk.
Oh, you got the microphone on.
Sit back.
Um,
It's okay. And you don't throw things, so she can't throw
One,
it to you.
one of the
Right.
things that's cool about these is that, I mean, it dresses it up a little bit to have this and makes it into a souvenir, but also if they're a little bit fragile, and so when they get one of these, it makes them hold it more like a real candle
Yes.
instead of
Yeah.
like the battery candle.
Yeah. We used to invite them to put them on the birthday cake at the end.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
the original plan.
And-
was, yeah.
And now it's become more of they take them
People
home.
want them.
That first few years when we did that, it's because we found them on the street
Yeah.
afterwards.
So we were like, save them and put them on the cake.
Yeah, put them on the cake. And so now these lights are in that Jackson Square, and that picture that the Queens took was just amazing. But the drone this year, when you're
You
looking
can
at it,
see
you
all
can
the
see
little
them.
lights. Full Jackson Square, full of little lights.
It was just amazing. There are about 4,000 to 5,000 people right in that section.
Right, yeah.
At Jackson Square, yeah.
Everybody wants to see the moment when Joan lifts her sword after it's been blessed.
Oh yeah, we do now use a sword that was gifted to us from the city of Orleans. They etched it with our crew name, so we use that special sword that they had to ship to us. It took about 6 months for them to ship it to us.
Yeah.
Wow.
To get it through customs and everything, but we have this, full
Because it
size
turns out
metal.
it's a weapon.
It turns out it's
Oh.
it's really hard for them to figure out how to get into
That's
it.
a prop.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it is not a live blade. I mean, it is a real sword. Like it
Yeah.
is a
Yeah.
fighting sword. It's not a decorative one, but it does not have a sharpened blade.
Right.
So
Well, if the crowds keep getting bigger.
This
you
will
just
help.
never know.
This will
It's like,
help.
oh,
Yes, I'm
sorry.
so sorry. Yeah, it'll turn to a Monty Python.
Yeah. So each of our maids gets a wooden sword that becomes theirs to keep, and then they carry that wooden sword for the first half of the parade till they get to the cathedral. Then the previous maid meets them there with the real sword, and it's
That's the
blessed.
blessing.
It's blessed there. The priest, Father Landry, says a few words about Joan. It's always hard to hear, but it's an amazing moment where we have this intersection between Mardi Gras and Catholicism and theater.
well, it is a Catholic
Yeah.
holiday.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
it makes perfect sense. Yeah,
We think it makes
As
perfect
crazy
sense.
as it is, we claim it as a
we
Catholic
forget,
holiday.
right, yeah, but it's really wouldn't be Mardi Gras if we weren't Catholic, yeah.
Yeah, we've had horses. We've actually had a horse
Last
walk
week tried to
into
walk in the
the
cathedral, yeah.
cathedral.
I, of course, originally wanted the priest to let us have her get her sword. Another story of hers is how she found her sword. It's a great story. But she found it behind an altar. And so I wanted her to go into the church to retrieve her sword, and we never managed to do that. But it's
No.
lovely to have him come out and, bless it. But
Yeah.
I like this idea of her, marching in and getting it, and then he could bless it. But
Well,
it's okay.
We're
It's
only a
all
couple
set.
days away from your parade. Y'all getting ready? Y'all
Very-
excited?
Very ready. Today was our all-day workshop. Every January 1st, we have our all-day workshop, and last minute, we finished all the tea lights,
Yes.
and people picked up costumes. The volunteers come and get their costumes, and
Y'all need me to tell Raphael to get anything done, or?
So he's got a checklist. He's
yes, he needs to get done. I hope.
He needs some more people on his marshalling team.
Yes, he does.
He
You
does.
guys are
Need some-
available.
Yeah, he
Seems
needs,
like
he
you guys
needs
would
more
be
parade
good parade
marshals.
marshals. Just saying.
Yeah, it's a crazy week.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a completely DIY parade, so
Yes.
all those we're gonna be,
Handmade.
ourselves will be the ones replacing the batteries and
Yes.
Pumping
making
up
repairs
tires,
and got a bunch of banners to make.
last minute costumes, costume changes. Because, just like any place else, we have volunteers who signed up and we were filled, so we shut down the volunteer sign up. Well, we've had about 17 drop out
Yeah.
in the last
Various
few
reasons.
days.
Yeah, broken arm or what have you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Sword
got-
fighting.
Yeah. Yeah, sword fighting. Yeah.
So
Scared of
besides Jackson
dragons.
Square, where would you suggest that other people see along the route? Like, where
At
is,
our lineup.
are there any particular
lineups,
spots
I
that?
wanna say,
Yeah.
But we love, it's still quite empty
The
at that
end-
last stretch.
The end
From her
is more empty,
statue-
so if they're looking
from her
for a
statue
more
onward,
spacious
yeah.
area.
And we would like more nice people on that side. That's where it gets
Nice
wonky.
people.
It gets wild because, like, in the first few years, people didn't even know who we were, and we'd be going past them, like, "Hey," you know, coming out of the bars. Now they're there for us, but there's just enough gaps, and the street isn't closed on the other side.
Yeah.
So you lose that intimacy of the French Quarter, and you lose that barrier of those people.
So
you have
Decatur,
Decatur, and then you have people driving on the other side of
So
Decatur,
from
on
the
the
Joan of-
riverside, and it's just.
So,
But
yeah,
if you
from
want
the
to get
Joan of
away
Arc
from the
statue.
crowd, then definitely that.
That's
end
the best
is-
Yeah,
place
from the
though.
Joan of Arc statue
All the way
to
to-
Oscar Dunn in that
Yep.
2-block section.
And
Yep,
also
all the way
maybe
to
around
Cafe
the-
de Monde is a
It
good,
used
yeah.
to be around the convent, the
The
Ursuline.
corner of Ursuline and Charters is
yeah,
pretty
it used
good.
to be.
I'm surprised it's
But
not just
now-
that
now
thick
it
over
is.
there.
Now even there,
That
it's
little
pretty
stretch
crowded.
used to be the sweet spot, I felt like, because you were still in the quarter, but it was not crowded. Now it's
Some people go
Just
to
walk
see the
with
sword
us.
blessing and then they
you
cross
see 'em
Jackson
again.
Square and they watch it again.
Yeah.
yeah. You
That
see,
moment,
Kind of convenient.
last year, one of the photos we can send you to is that moment at the end. Because we now have the flag corps with these city flags, and we have the banners of the knights that walked with her. We have all these angels up at the top. So at Oscar Dunn Park in that amphitheater, there's literally a walkway that goes up, and our royalty walks up to the top. So it's a very pageanty kind of
it's a
thing.
great grand finale.
So being there to see that is amazing, and we just got a bunch of photos last year from the direction, because the angels were up on the top, and they took photos, because they were all
the
there.
cathedral
Right.
glowing in the
And
background.
that's,
Those are the
and
best
that's
photos.
where they do the
yeah.
first king cake.
Yeah, if you just wanted to sit on the steps at Oscar Dunn Plaza, I think it's fun to watch the parade arrive, and
Yeah.
you see it all from a height too that you wouldn't see anywhere else. So I think that's kind of a little known
Or some of the bars,
secret. Yeah,
some of the bars along the way, like Muriel's, Tableau.
I
There's a
still
bunch on
I
Charters.
think a lot of people still don't take advantage of using those balconies. Yeah.
There's a ton of
Yeah.
bars with balconies along there.
I personally, I don't care for them. I've been on balconies.
Yeah.
I'd rather be with the
In the
parade.
street. Well, you're not gonna get anything
You know,
either.
well,
At
it's
our
not
level.
even that. I
No,
just,
but
I
you
feel
just
like
are
I'm more
removed.
part of the parade.
yeah, you feel
on the
removed from
floor.
it from above. Yeah, I can see that.
I would say at the side of the, because we stop at Washington Art, because we stop at the Historic New Orleans Collection at the Williams Research Center right on that corner,
That's crowded.
it's really crowded at that corner, but you know what's not crowded?
Oh.
Bienville before we get there,
Bienville's not crowded, and then as you get towards past the court,
like past Cape Paul.
yeah, but I was
right
just
at Cape
about
Paul.
to say Cape
Because
Paul's
the
is where
parade
it
is
opens
stopped.
up. Yeah, there's just this little gap there.
Yeah, the parade
That's-
is stopped, so we've got the
Yeah.
flag corps performing. We've
Mm-hmm.
got all these other things happening in other sections of the parade while the toast is going on.
The cannon firing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
We
the
try to
end.
have each section have something
Have
they
a little
can do
theatrical
during these
moment.
those plazas, because of course,
they're
if
long.
you're not where the sword blessing is happening,
You're like, why is
then
it stopped
you're-
for so?
Yeah.
right, the parade's just stopped
they know,
there.
They know
And I will say that the speeches at the Williams Research Center get longer every year. Because they're in
reading from the
English and they're in French,
Well-
and then there's more people up there and
I guess so.
So we have people doing little
things elsewhere.
Little entertaining.
theatrical recitations, we have medieval chants, we have the confetti cannon.
Yeah.
Skins and Bones. We do have musicians in every section too, so you're always gonna hear bagpipers or drums or medieval music. So
And we could talk all night long about this, but did you have any other specific questions?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of bounced on them a little bit. You know, y'all have, we're kind of talking about it before the show started. Y'all have several of the, what I guess would say the traditional marching groups these days. You know, a lot of
We
the,
do.
yes.
Yeah.
We do.
you know, I
And
know
we're-
y'all have got like the muffaladas, the
Chorus Girl
the
Project.
Chorus Girls,
Project,
the-
the Nola Angels.
And now
And
this
now
year
Crew de
adding
Fleur.
the crew de fleur.
Mm-hmm.
They've
be-
got-
The floors are great.
They'll be in
they're
our
with them,
village.
they pull.
Yep. Yeah, years ago we would have a different variations on a fairy tree. That was another part of Joan's legend. They would try to accuse her of being pagan and dancing around the fairy tree, this oak tree in her town. And so that was in the Do Re Mi village, but the floors, it made sense because of their costumes and
Yeah.
being part of the village that they would be holding onto a maypole.
Mhm.
So they're going to be carrying this tall maypole that Amanda constructed, and it'll be beautiful, and they'll be beautiful. And it just happens to coincide. They always watch our parade because it's their night that they
Yeah, right,
reveal.
that day.
So they
that-
were always, and they would be standing there in costume watching us. So slowly we're like,
You're like-
why don't you join
Yeah,
us?
why don't you just take 2 steps
So,
in and walk in the
And then they
yeah.
reveal earlier in the day. They just adjusted it so then they can, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a connection because one of the floors, her mother is a longtime member.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
Maureen Kelly.
And so
Shannon.
Maureen
Mhm.
has been like, Shannon, you guys should do this. You guys should do this. And Shannon's like, well, I'm a flower that night. So now they're going to do it together. So
Well,
they're
and now
all
she's a captain, so I got to ask her last. She was the missing link, so she
yeah,
was
she
able
was the
to
connection.
make it. Yep.
It's not just them either. I mean, we have other, like we have the Kilts of Many Colors, which is the bagpipers piped in her army, at the front of her army.
Right,
And-
the Scots and the
and
French
we-
fought, of course.
We
the
actually
British
use
too.
a song, they learned a song that was actually played and
Mhm.
documented as one that was played by her pipers.
Right.
So we have that, and then we have Desmian Barnes and Soul Ayers, which is he's
Brass band, yep.
a traditional brass band who has made a point also of learning music that's
Mhm.
appropriate for our parade.
Yep.
Then we have Skins and Bones, which they came to us too. They are a traditional bones gang, primarily women, and they had watched our parade for years
Mhm.
and came in very hesitantly saying, "Is there something we could do?" And we're like,
I talked to them and they were gonna sign up to be foot soldiers, and I said, well, if you're, we would love to have more foot soldiers, but if you're gonna do it, we need one to drum. And they were like, oh,
Can we
drum?
please?
Can
Boy,
we?
And,
Yeah, right.
I'm like, well, let's think about it. How can we fit that into the story? And so we had the idea of having them portray the murderous judges who sentenced her to death. So they do Joan's trial, and boy, they do a bang up job of it. I mean, they do all
They do a
original.
scripted. They do
Yeah,
talk
they-
about theater.
They do all
it's-
these chants.
Yep.
They modify the chants. They
Burn.
borrow some popular songs. They customize all that.
Yeah.
To,
For our
It's a
parade,
full our
they
performance.
customize their
They have a
prose.
Joan character.
Oh my
they
God.
have
Let's
a
see. I
the
don't know
villain,
if
the
they
bishop
participate in
character.
any others. Like,
I don't think
that's
they
the
do.
only.
Not in this
Bonus.
way. They are in
And-
other parades.
Yeah,
Similar-
they
Do
do a
they?
lot of other parades, but they
It's-
don't. Well, they do custom things for Camp Krampus too.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they probably customize for quite a few things, but they do a really great job of really bringing out the meaning of the story. Every now and then we get some people saying, "Well, that's like that sound isn't medieval," but actually
They're the most
Oh.
medieval.
their
of our
sound
parades.
is very
Authentic. Yeah.
the same kinds of instrumentation
And their
the
costuming.
vocal, right? And their costume.
Well, those
Mummers.
groups go back
That
for
macabre
generations.
Yes, yeah.
Hundreds
imitation
of
is
years.
actually very standard medieval festival kind of stuff, so it really fits in pretty well, I think.
And it's, talking about them adjusting for us, when the chorus girls leader Amy said, can we participate, it was similarly not as the chorus girls, you'll see them in other parades as the chorus girls.
Right,
So,
but they'll adjust to
right,
the
so,
theme.
right,
Yeah.
so it took me about a month, and then I said to her, what do you think about being angels? It was actually because I was watching the Macy's Day Parade and I saw all these Marilyn Monroes, in a group, and just all this white, and I suddenly was like, what if the chorus girls were all in white? Oh, they could be angels. And when I told her, she got excited, and now they make, as you can attest, they
Customize every year.
Yeah, they
Every year
customize,
they make
they make a new
costume for
angel
their
costume.
And the funny part about their costumes,
Oh,
they're not sewn. And the reason they walk like this and very carefully is because there aren't any side seams.
yeah,
So-
they do a genius, is it,
Yeah, and they
what is
take-
it, Velcro kind of job.
Yeah, they
with
do
a lot of
Velcro
it,
and ties and wrap, and when they get to the end, they just pull it off, and
Yeah.
it's like flat
And then of course
fabric.
girls again now. But no, they're very
That's
clever.
crazy.
But that's what's been so fun, and even the muffaladas dressed, for in black.
Yeah,
with their
they
little
asked us, and
pom-poms.
they
Yeah.
made the
Right.
flames on their skirts.
Right, so it's a fun way when people come to us and want to participate, and even at the first year,
And
the brass
the
band.
Nola Angels
Right,
came to
Yeah,
us.
they're
Yeah.
flag
and
bearers.
we said, well, we've always wanted to have a flag corps. And
Yes.
they said, we can make that happen.
yeah.
And they don't even normally do flags.
They don't
but
do flags, right?
You know,
They
some of
figure-
them learned how
Right.
to do flags, and they do a
Choreographed,
terrific
right.
job with the flag display.
And I would say we're the only, we've got to be really the only parade that has the brass band dressed for us. You know what I mean? Like they're in medieval costumes. It
Yeah,
isn't like
they're
they're
not
just the
just
brass
in the-
band.
Yeah.
The
Right.
standard,
Right. They're
half
that's-
tops or whatever,
right, yeah. They're dressed as
And we provide all those
jesters.
costumes.
Yes, we do.
Today was the scramble because we're like, where are some of our
Yes,
costumes?
the
We
big
can't
costume
find them.
pickup
The big
day.
costume pickup is like, wait, we don't have enough costumes. Where did they go? No, we gotta switch these people.
It was a crazy day.
So, another important question, how can people follow y'all? And let's say Kirk or I wanted to join,
Please.
how could we join?
You can still join.
Yeah, what's the deadline? Is there a deadline? We
Oh my God.
passed the December
We've
1st
had to-
deadline. December
we've had-
1st is the final
well-
final?
You have to buy donor membership at this stage.
Okay,
And
Which
you
is
have to
so
provide
cheap.
your own costume.
Which is not cheap.
But yes, we are open to
At the
membership.
last
You might,
minute,
it
so-
might be a little last minute right now, but looking forward to next year, we open
Right.
membership almost right after the parade ends. It's a little crazy because of Mardi Gras, people may not be thinking they want to immediately plan ahead
Yeah.
for the next one. But yeah, by the time we hit April, where people are starting to join again, and we try throughout the year to, because of all the different events we have a feast day celebration for her in May. We have monthly workshops at Amanda's Den.
And
Our
socials
event,
and
monthly socials in
book
our
club
salon.
and art and all
We
of
do
that.
a big push when we have our salon in September and our art contest.
So
So
the-
that's a big, yeah.
So the easy answer to that is go to our website where it says get involved.
Yes.
And our website is joanofarcparade.org. You can go where it says get involved and it says memberships and it talks about the different kinds of membership, which is either a volunteer or regular. We're not taking volunteers right now because no more costumes.
right,
But if you want to get involved as a member, you can go on there and join as a donor member right now, which is at the $500 level, right? Maybe?
The nobility's at 500.
Yeah, the nobility is at 500. It's really only 250.
Yeah, donors
Yeah,
250.
250.
Yeah.
Or
Actually,
500.
But the two
Only
together would be
250.
500.
Yeah. And then after the parade, we
Yeah.
do a special for any of the volunteers who enjoyed it so much they want to be members. And then the membership opens as soon as we get
Yeah.
past that first month. And you can join for as low as $125
Right,
per person.
the kind of early bird membership is
Yeah.
125 until summer. Till summertime it goes up a
Well,
little bit.
May 30.
Yep.
is
yeah.
our
Which is our
first-
feast day.
Yeah.
Which is
Our
our
feast
first
day.
big event.
This
So
is
there's
the
little
first-
increases, but
Yeah.
we're still we're the best bargain in town. still
And
for
you
like-
know,
Yeah.
we when we talk about our throws and things, it's like you're not obligated to buy throws. Some people spend all year crafting things. Some
Yes.
people buy them for us.
Well, you
Yeah.
automatically get playing cards. You get a little, you get matches, 50 matches. You do get a little packet of throws automatically as a member, and then it's on you if you want to buy more and make more.
Yeah, but it's much like any other crew. You know, that's one of the revenue sources that we have. We have some other revenue sources where we go out into the community and teach classes. We go into the schools for school visits. We do events with the French Market Corporation, so you can find us there. And we're always looking for volunteers. You don't have to be a member to come and do things with us.
We always need help with
Yeah.
costumes.
Yes. Oh my God.
And
yes.
and other thing, crafting. Some people
Yeah, we
just
work
love to
workshops
come.
every month, and
Yeah.
they're all listed on the calendar. So if a
Right.
person who is interested could show up at one of those and get a feel for it and get some questions answered.
Yeah, those are good.
Decide if they want
Yeah.
to be involved.
Right.
Any more than just coming and helping out, because you don't have to walk in the parade to be a member. And
Right.
We have a
quite a
lot of
few.
people who never walk in the
Right.
parade.
They just want to make things and be part of it and contribute.
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just as important to have that, that behind the scenes backbone
Right.
as it is to have
Right.
members marching in that parade, yeah.
Right, and there are these regular gatherings where they really are social, like so much of New Orleans,
Yeah.
right? It's your crew, so a lot of people just look forward to getting together to make things, and they'll watch the parade, but they don't necessarily want to walk in it. And there's so many other opportunities. Like again, it's a lot of people. But when we reignited, pun intended, the book club, there are a lot of people who come to us because they just know and love Joan of Arc. But it's a really fun thing to watch people learn about her.
Mhm.
You know, a lot of people will admit, some people will even admit they didn't even know who that was on the statue. Like, I still hear that. So that's really cool too, because that's become a big part of it. Like, we're all discovering her together, and people are learning. I know a couple that brought their daughters because they just wanted them to know at age 6 who Joan of Arc was. You know, so there's just all these ways that people can get involved, even if they just want to read a book about Joan of Arc or go to our website and watch a film. We did film during COVID. We had our film festival.
World premiere.
That's right. We did
Yeah,
a world
we had a world premiere of a film here, so that was pretty cool. But I think that, you know, one of the things that's happened with us too is that in some ways we're actually better known in other places than we are here. As you
People
were just
come from out
saying,
of town.
yeah, they come from out of town to see this because they've seen it
Oh
elsewhere.
yeah, all the
They
hotels
watch us
know
in
us
Japan.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They,
people,
but
yeah.
like we have live streamed the night of because thanks
Mhm.
to several different you know, TV stations that cover us, we have
Right.
live streamed and they're watching from Japan to watch the, like, it's a different time of day there.
Yeah.
They're watching it live from there. They're watching live from France. We're in the newspaper in France for our
Oh yeah,
parade
France loves
all the
it 'cause
time.
we really are their little sister parade. But people, I love it too. The city loves it, and the city should love it even more. I know that New Orleans Tourism and Company loves it as emblematic of like the family side of Mardi
Yeah.
Gras. That's another thing that's great. Is like that's a great selling point. Is that you can join with your family, you can come with your family,
Right.
and the city's like, oh, thank God, there's something in the quarter that isn't like stereotypical.
Yeah.
And we don't
Yeah,
Yeah,
drink
it's not
during our
the
parade.
girls going wild.
Right,
or-
Yeah.
right, right.
Whatever
We
you
have
want
a we have a no drinking during our parade, so you can drink before. We don't encourage it, but you know people do. But you can drink during lineup if you're not busy. You can do whatever. But the moment of the parade starts, you better be sober, and there's no drinking on the route. And that has been a thing that we've really stuck to through the whole parade.
Yeah, it's just a different vibe.
Because we do have a lot of families. You know, from the beginning, we had families participating
Oh,
with
yeah.
young children in the parade.
Mhm. Now we don't have as many little ones
Because
we
they've
made
grown
it-
up.
And
yeah.
we made it a
And we
rule,
made it a rule,
but
they
in
had
the
to be over
beginning-
6.
Right. Kristen Palmer had like literally a whole army. She had her own children's crusade
Yeah,
with a bunch of kids.
And,
So
and it's a real state procession for
for a lot
for,
of people.
for
yeah.
a lot of people, and we work with the cathedral, so it's not the time for a.
And if you can't last
Yeah.
for a
Well,
mile,
we're done by 8:30.
I mean,
Oh yeah, there's plenty of time to drink after the parade. Yeah, and that is something I should say. Like the fact that it's on a Saturday this year. Again, it's always funny when people are like, "What day is your parade this
Yeah.
year?"
January 6th.
It's always January 6th, which
Right.
means it moves nights. So next year it's a leap year, and it'll be back to a weeknight on Monday, not even a Sunday. But this year it's on a Saturday, so it's a good time to catch it because you know
It's a party.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be a big year, and it's our Sweet 16, so it's just nice to come for that.
But I encourage people to come out and see it at the lineup. Don't come early because we're busy.
Right.
And you're kind of in the way, much as we love the crowd. But come to that between North Front Street and on Bienville, between North Front Street and Decatur and Charters. That 2-block section is really great because you see the excitement. We're all fresh.
Yeah,
Like, we've
that's
been
true.
ready.
Yeah, we're
We're
right.
like
Yeah.
ready to roll.
Yeah, you're not catching everybody. You know, it's like we always joke, you know, because we go to all the different parades, there's a handful of the parades that we'll catch at the very, very end. And you'll see like some of the groups where after marching 5, 6, sometimes 7 miles,
They're tired.
they're tired. They're, 10 more steps. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it doesn't quite give you that
Always,
joy.
right.
always
that
tell the
joy
little
you want.
ushers like only 5 more miles, and they're like, oh god, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're able to remain pretty perky on ours because ours is like the shortest. We've got to have the shortest parade
Yeah.
around. Yeah.
We are pretty short,
Mhm.
which is good.
Yeah.
Just like no more.
And we start on time.
And we start on time.
Yeah.
There is
Yeah,
no
we're pretty
delay.
Yeah, that's
typical of
weird.
every parade in that sense.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, we have a great relationship with the NOPD and the permitting office. One, because we're not a Mardi Gras crew, so we fall under the procession rules rather than the Mardi Gras rules, which is really nice. And so we've worked with them for a long time. For a long time, we had the same officer.
Mhm. Mhm.
He's no longer with the NOPD, but You know, he was great. We have our barricade guy. You know, we know the same lady in the office. We fill out. And when everybody else moved to One Stop all online, we're like, oh, I just talked to Janet. But I mean, we follow the same guidelines as everybody else filing for a walking permit. But it's because we've been doing it so long, and it's the same people in those offices. They're like, "What'd you change this year?" Nothing. Good. So yeah, so we have our permit in hand. We have our insurance. We have our pickup people, and yeah, I think we'll have a parade on Saturday.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yes, please. And also follow us on Facebook at Joan of Arc Project, which is our official organization name. So it's Joan of Arc Project, and that we're constantly posting on there about everything going on.
Yeah.
Articles,
And,
old photos, new photos, where to find us, and the route and everything.
Yeah, and you can find the bios for the royalty and a list of previous royalty and maids on our website,
Mm-hmm.
as well as contact information for the three of us, because we're all on there.
Right.
And also
The art contest.
the art contest, the maids contest, you know, we open that up in the summer. So it's open to anybody, any young woman between the age of 16 and 19 who speaks French.
Okay.
Has an appreciation for Joan.
That's another reason I love that it's our 16th year, because that's the year Joan was when she left home to save France. So
Yes.
16 is a big year for her. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I wish y'all nothing but success on parade night. You know, and I hope to be able to make it out there to see y'all march. You know, I mean, like you said, usually that day we've got such a tight schedule, but we're gonna try and make it over there for sure. You know, and you know, I hope y'all have a blast. Signing out. We will see you on the route. Thanks again for tuning in. Be sure to check out tonight's guests online. You can check them out at links all listed over here. Also, if you like us, you can support us. You go to our website, you can purchase our shirts and
These
Couple
beautiful
other-
things.
couple other goodies that we have out there. And be sure to follow us online as well. The links are all over here. And while you're at it, be sure to click that subscribe button down there and the little bell to stay in touch on when we put out new content. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the route.